someone in the grip of mass formation becomes willing to radically self-sacrifice. It is as if people are not aware anymore of their own individual interests. It makes people radically intolerant for dissonant voices, for people who think differently, even if it concerns their own children or their own parents. Mass formation is the psychological basis of totalitarianism. In a classical dictatorship, there's just like people are just scared of a small group of people, the dictatorial regime. In a totalitarian state, you have a completely different mechanic. You have first the emergence of this mass formation, this group of people, usually 20 to 30% of the people, who fanatically believe in an ideology, in a narrative, and who are willing to self-sacrifice completely for the sake of that ideology. And if under these conditions certain leaders use the masses to seize control of society, you have the emergence of a totalitarian state. So that's why it is so important to understand the mechanism of mass formation. Like, what makes people so blind? It is as if our society is falling apart in elementary particles, is atomizing. It is as if loneliness is spreading everywhere. In ancient times, people had to meet physically to form a mass. Now, people can sit isolated in their living rooms and form a mass because they are all infused with the same narratives, mental representations through the mass media. These lonely masses last much longer, can be much better controlled. Physical masses are very unpredictable. Lonely masses can be perfectly controlled through propaganda and last much longer. Once people are disconnected and lonely, they will typically start to struggle with lack of meaning making and lack of purpose in life. That's spontaneously, because as a human being, you have a spontaneous experience that your life makes sense, that your life has a purpose. Every time you see that you, as a human being, has an effect on someone else. If you see, to use the word of Levinas, that you have an effect on the face of the other, that the other reacts to you, you will have the feeling that your life makes sense, that you truly exist for someone else. So if someone feels completely disconnected and is lonely, that spontaneous experience of meaning making doesn't emerge anymore. If you are anxious and you don't know what you're anxious for, you feel completely out of control. Of course, you're anxious and you don't see what you're anxious for, so you cannot control your object of anxiety. When many people are in this state, propaganda is extremely efficacious, just because if someone disseminates a narrative through the mass media indicating an object of anxiety and providing a strategy to deal with that object of anxiety, something very specific might happen. All this anxiety that is floating in the social air might at once connect to the object of anxiety in the narrative, and people will be willing to do everything to control that object of anxiety, meaning that a mass emerges not because individuals connect to another individual. A mass emerges because each individual separately connects to the collective ideal. If you are in a group, you will very soon feel that a certain consensus arises and a certain pressure to speak in a certain way. That means like the group will share a common ideal image, and everyone is supposed to behave according to this ideal image. And that's where truth disappears. And the one who takes that responsibility, who finds the courage to put himself in that vulnerable position to speak the truth, will inevitably lose something in the world of appearances, inevitably, because by definition, truth is this kind of speech which destroys appearances and delusions. So inevitably, when you speak the truth, you will lose something in the world of appearances, but you will win something in the real world. Your soul will get stronger. Your ego will get weaker, and your soul will get stronger. That's what it means to speak the truth. You have to be grateful for the fact that we exist, but not at no matter what price. There is something that is even more important. And being loyal to the first and foremost ethical principle, to speak in a sincere way, is one of these things, I think, that is more important than conforming to social ideal image.